the son of a black cleaning lady solved a problem worth $100 million in just seconds. But when he saw how the CEO reacted, he knew right away he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Jalen Carter, only 19 years old, had no idea that bringing a pizza to the 20th floor of Solutions would turn into the most embarrassing moment he'd ever face. He stood quietly at the front desk, waiting to be paid. His eyes were locked on the massive screen nearby, where a bunch of engineers were nervously talking about an error in the system. The company was losing millions every single day because of it. They're using the wrong data structure, Jalen whispered, watching the code displayed on the wall. The receptionist, a blonde woman in heels, rolled her eyes. Right, like the pizza guy knows programming, she said with a smirk. Jalen ignored her and kept watching. The problem on the screen was clear to him, just like breathing. A simple rearrangement of the binary tree and using a better hashing method would fix it almost instantly. Excuse me, Jalen said, turning to a group of well-dressed executives walking by. That algorithm you're working on, you're using a basic search, when you should be using a hash index. That's why it's crashing. Suddenly, everything went quiet. 12 men in suits stared at Jalen like he was speaking another language. One of them stepped forward, Edward Vance, the CEO of the company. He was in his 50s, his grey hair perfectly styled. He gave a low, mean laugh. Kid, do you know how many PhDs have been trying to fix that for the past 6 months? Jalen felt his face heat up, but he stayed calm. I know you've lost $97 million so far. The system crashes every time you hit 200,000 simultaneous requests. Vance stopped laughing. That number wasn't public. How the hell do you know that? Asked another man, stepping forward, Dr. Malcolm Reyes, the vice president of technology. He looked suspicious. Jalen stayed quiet for a second. He could have told them the truth, that his mom, Teresa Carter, had been cleaning this building for 15 years, and he used to sit in empty offices doing homework, while overhearing meetings and reading papers left on desks. But saying that out loud would only embarrass her. I just noticed, he said calmly. Vance crossed his arms and gave Jalen a cruel smile. All right, genius. If you're so smart, prove it. Fix the problem. The challenge echoed through the lobby. People stopped what they were doing to watch. Some looked amused. Others waited for him to fail in front of everyone. What no one knew was that Jalen had been accepted to Stanford when he was just 16, but he turned down the scholarship to take care of his diabetic mother. He looked at the code again. Then he looked at the faces around him. Something shifted in his eyes, not fear, but a deep calmness, a confidence that made a few of the onlookers pause. All right, he said, pulling out his old, worn-out smartphone. But once this is done, I want everyone here to remember that you judged me by how I look. If this moment of judgment and strength touches you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because this isn't just a story about code. It's about how one moment of humiliation can spark a change no one saw coming. Dr. Malcolm Reyes laughed loudly, his voice sharp and cutting through the lobby like broken glass. This is going to be hilarious. Somebody call security to record when he crashes and burns. Jalen didn't react. He saw more and more employees coming down from their offices to watch. Everyone was whispering, pointing at the pizza guy who dared to challenge the company's best engineers. 15 minutes, said Vance, checking his expensive gold watch. If you can't improve the system by at least 10%, you're out, and take your mother with you. Jalen froze. How did he know about his mother? Oh yes, Vance added with a sly grin. Teresa Carter. She's been cleaning our offices for 15 years. A hard-working woman, but maybe it's time she retires. Especially if she finds out her son is a liar. The words hit Jalen hard. His mother had given up everything for him. Her sleep, her health, her own hope so he could study and have a better life. After his father left, she worked 3 jobs. Cleaning late at night while Jalen did his homework. In the quiet corners of empty buildings. What's wrong, kid? Vance asked. Still feel like playing programmer. Jalen took a deep breath and remembered what his mum always said. Son, when they try to shame you, it's because they're scared of what you can do. You can start the timer, Jalen said, walking toward the terminal. The blonde receptionist, whose name tag read Brittany, was already recording with her phone. This is going viral, she whispered to someone. Pizza guy takes on a tech giant too good. Jalen blocked out the noise. He stared at the screen. The system was even more broken than he expected. It was layer after layer of messy, unorganized code like a house built on sand. But his eyes, trained through years of late nights in public libraries and endless YouTube tutorials, saw a pattern right away. As he started typing, all the times he had been looked down on came rushing back. In school, where teachers thought he was just another poor kid with no future. At Stanford, where the interviewer questioned if he really belonged. And when people told him he was throwing away his only shot at success by turning down the scholarship. 10 minutes, Vance said, sounding confident that Jalen was about to fail. Dr. Malcolm Reyes stepped closer, watching the screen. His smirk started to fade. Wait, that can't be right. Jalen had rewritten the entire data setup in under 8 minutes. What used to be 300 lines of clotted code was now only 47 clean and efficient lines. What did you do? Asked an engineer nearby, clearly amazed. Jalen didn't look up. I treated the system like I treat a tight family budget, he said. When you don't have much, you learn to make it work. I cut out the waste and focused only on what's needed. Vance walked up, his smile slipping away. That's not possible. We've had top minds working on this for half a year. Maybe the problem wasn't the minds, Jalen replied softly. Maybe it was the perspective. When you've never had to stretch $1 over a whole week, it's hard to know what true efficiency really looks like. The air was thick with tension. Employees glanced at each other nervously, sensing something big was unfolding. 5 minutes, Vance muttered, but his voice didn't sound so confident anymore. Jalen typed the final line of code, then stepped back from the computer. Done, he said. You can test it now. Dr. Malcolm Reyes hesitated, then ran the simulation. The screen lit up, numbers flowed rapidly down, and then the system had processed 200,000 simultaneous queries in just 3 seconds. No crashes, no errors. That can't be real, someone in the crowd whispered. Jalen looked straight at Vance. That's a 97% improvement in performance, and a 90% cut in processing time. Your server costs should be half of what they were. No one moved. Brittany, the receptionist, had stopped filming, her jaw hanging open. Even the ones who had laughed earlier were now speechless. Vance's face turned red. His fists were clenched. He looked completely humiliated. That was luck, a trick. You must have copied that from somewhere. He snapped. I can do it again from scratch if you want, Jalen said calmly. Or I can explain every single line to your team. I could even teach a few lessons on how to optimize your systems. That's when Vance made his biggest mistake. He lost control. I will not be humiliated by a black pizza delivery boy, he yelled, loud enough for the entire building to hear. Security, get this bum out of here. The silence that followed was painful. Phones had caught every word. Vance had just exposed the racism he'd hidden for years. And now it was recorded by dozens of people. Jalen stood still, a faint smile on his face. He had done exactly what he needed. He didn't just solve the company's problem. He had revealed the true face of its CEO. Interesting, Jalen said, slinging his backpack over his shoulder. Because under state law, racial discrimination at work is a federal offense. And with all these recordings, well, every word you say is digging your own grave. As Vance's angry words still echoed through the building, Jalen walked out calmly, like someone who had just taken the first step in a much larger battle. About 20 minutes later, he was back home in the small apartment he had lived in his whole life. His mother, Teresa Carter, was making dinner. When she saw his face, she immediately knew something had happened. "Sit down and tell me everything," she said, turning off the stove. Jalen sat at their old, scratched kitchen table and told her the whole story. From spotting the mistake in the code, to fixing it, to Vance's public outburst. Teresa listened quietly, her eyes filled with tears, not just of worry, but of pride. "My son," she said softly, "do you know what you just did?" "I think I made a huge mistake," Jalen said with a sigh. "I exposed myself, and I exposed you." Teresa stood up and placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "No, you showed them who you really are. And if that man thinks he can bring down our family, after 15 years of me cleaning up his messes, he's never met the real Williams family." She walked to the closet and pulled out an old, dusty shoebox. Inside were letters, photos, and documents. "Son, there are things you don't know about tech, things I've seen over the years." Jalen looked through the papers, evidence of fraud, illegal firings, even photos of executives using drugs in company bathrooms. "You saved all this?" he asked, shocked. "When you're invisible," Teresa said with a sad smile, "people talk and act like you're not even there. I've seen and heard more than I should have for the last 15 years. The very next day, Jalen got a phone call he wasn't expecting. "Hello, is this Jalen Carter? My name is Noah Delgado. I'm an investigative journalist with T News. I saw the video of what happened at Tech." "I'm not sure I want to do interviews," Jalen said cautiously. "It's not an interview," Noah replied. "It's a proposal. I've been investigating Technova for 2 years. I have sources who confirm a pattern of racism and illegal labor practices, but I need more proof." They met at a quiet cafe downtown. Noah was older, with gray hair and sharp eyes. He slid a folder across the table. "That video, just the beginning," he said. "Vance has a history firing black employees for fake reasons, paying women less, hiding money through shady deals." Jalen flipped through the documents. He recognized names people his mother had talked about. "What do you need from me?" "Access. Your mom has worked there forever. You're talented. And now Vance has underestimated you in public. He'll try to cover up the scandal. But if we can get more evidence, we can take him down," Jalen finished, a determined look in his eyes. Meanwhile, chaos had erupted at Tech. Vance had called an emergency meeting with his lawyers and PR team. The video has over 200,000 views. Someone said, "I want that kid and his mother gone by the end of the week." Vance shouted, "And someone better find a flaw in his code. There has to be something wrong." Dr. Malcolm Reyes, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "Richard, maybe we should consider offering him a job. He's clearly gifted. It might help with the company's image." "Are you insane?" Vance barked. "You think I'm going to reward the brat who humiliated me? Get him out now, or I'll find someone who will." What Vance didn't realize was that Dr. Malcolm Reyes had secretly recorded their entire meeting. He had been watching the CEO's shady behavior for years, but seeing real talent pushed aside just because of race. That was the last straw. That night, Reyes called a number Jalen had given him. It connected directly to Noah Delgado. "I've got something you'll want to hear," he said simply. From that point on, Jalen began to change. By day, he kept delivering pizzas and staying under the radar. But by night, he worked closely with Noah and Reyes, gathering files, emails, logs, everything they needed to take Teknova down. What they uncovered was worse than anyone thought. There were fake contracts with empty shell companies. Minority employees constantly passed over for promotions. And worst of all, evidence that Vance was selling secret company information to competitors. "We have enough to ruin his career. Take down the whole company," Noah said one evening during a late-night meeting at Jalen's apartment. But Jalen surprised them all. "No," he said, calmly and clearly. "We don't want to destroy the company. There are good, honest people working there, people who need their jobs. We need to be smarter than that." Teresa gave a small smile. She recognized the wisdom in her son, the same lessons she had tried to teach him for years. "The best revenge," she said gently, "is not sinking to their level. It's rising so high that they feel small just looking up at you." Jalen nodded. A plan was starting to take shape in his mind. "Vance thinks I'm just some pizza delivery boy who got lucky. Let's use that against him." He turned to Noah. "Didn't you say there are board members at Teknova who are getting tired of Vance's leadership?" "Yes," Noah said. 3 of them. They're quietly unhappy with how things are being run." "Good," Jalen said, with a sharp look in his eyes. "Then we're going to give them something they never expected. Vance wants to shame me in front of everyone. Fine, we'll let him try." While they made their plans, none of them noticed someone watching from the window of the building across the street. Vance had hired a private investigator to spy on Jalen and his mother, convinced they were hiding something. But what he didn't realize was that his own paranoia would be his downfall. Every step he took only added more evidence to the growing case against him. Jalen looked at Teresa, then at Noah and Reyes. "Are you ready to turn the whole game around?" he asked. They all nodded, and in that small kitchen, where a mother had raised a boy with a brilliant mind, a plan was born, one that would change all their lives and redefine what justice looked like in the corporate world. The same boy Vance had tried to humiliate would soon become his worst nightmare. And the twist, it would be as precise as it was devastating. Teknova's conference room had never seen anything like it. Vance had called a huge meeting. The full board of directors was there, along with tech journalists and major investors. He claimed the purpose was to show off his leadership and integrity. "Gentlemen," Vance began, adjusting his expensive tie, "I've brought you here to demonstrate how we deal with false accusations and attempts to damage this company. Just then, Jalen walked in. He wore the same plain shirt as always, calm and focused. Vance smiled like a wolf who thought he had trapped his prey. "Ah, our famous pizza genius has arrived," he said loudly for the whole room to hear. "I hope someone's recording this because today, you're going to see a liar exposed." Jalen sat in the chair they had set up for him, noticing the cameras that were placed to catch every second, perfect, just like he wanted. "Mr. Williams," Vance said as he circled the room like he was on stage, "you claimed to have improved our systems by 97%. Our experts say it was nothing but beginner's luck. A trick." Dr. Malcolm Reyes, sitting at the back, exchanged a quick glance with Jalen. Everything was going according to plan. "In fact," Vance continued, raising his voice, "we have proof that you and your mother have been stealing from us. She's been taking pictures of private documents during her cleaning shifts." Gasps spread through the room. Some people looked confused. Others clearly didn't believe it. Jalen stayed still, but the fire in his eyes made several people shift in their seats. "That's a serious accusation, Mr. Vance," Jalen said calmly. "I hope you have proof." "Oh, I do," Vance snapped. "I hired a private investigator. He got photos of your mother going where she wasn't supposed to be, and photos of you meeting suspicious people." Jalen nodded slowly. "Interesting. Did your investigator also follow you?" Vance froze. "What are you talking about?" Jalen pulled out a tablet and connected it to the room's projector. "Because while your guy was following me, Noah Delgado from TechWash News was following you." The screen lit up. A photo appeared of Vance having dinner with a suited man at an expensive restaurant dated 3 weeks ago. "This is Ivan Sokolov," Jalen said calmly. "He works for TechCorp, Russia Technova's biggest rival. You were negotiating the sale of our company's algorithms for $12 million. Vance went pale. "That's fake. A setup." Jalen tapped again. This time, an audio clip played. Vance's voice filled the room. "The machine learning algorithms, worth at least $20 million on the black market. I can get the full code to you by the end of the month." "That's taken out of context," Vance shouted, but no one believed him. Jalen smiled. "Let's give them some more context." More slides appeared, fake contracts, emails showing racially motivated firings, photos of top executives using drugs in the office, everything Teresa had quietly collected over the years. "Oh my God," one of the investors whispered. "Richard, is this true?" But Jalen wasn't done yet. The next video showed the full clip of Vance yelling at Jalen in the lobby, including the part where he shouted the racist remark that had been edited out of the leaked version. "And now," Jalen said, his voice stronger, "what really matters." The final slides showed data charts, proof that Jalen's code had saved Technova $143 million. In just 2 weeks, and increased system efficiency by 120%. All of that, Jalen said, looking directly at Vance, was achieved by a so-called pizza delivery kid, using knowledge he picked up while his mother, who gave 15 years of her life to this company, cleaned up after the messes you left behind. You could hear a pin drop. Vance stood shaking, drenched in sweat. You set me up," he shouted. Jalen turned off the projector. "No, you set yourself up. I just recorded the truth." At that moment, the conference room doors opened. Noah Delgado walked in with 2 federal agents at his side. "Edward Vance," one of them said, "you're under arrest for industrial espionage, workplace discrimination, and tax fraud." As the agents handcuffed him, Vance screamed, "This is a witch hunt. You can't do this. I built this company." Jalen stood up, adjusted his plain shirt, and looked straight at the man who had tried to ruin his life and tear down his family. "Mr. Vance," he said firmly, "the difference between you and me is simple. You used your power to push people down. I used my mind to lift people up." As Vance was led away in handcuffs, one of the board members quietly approached Jalen. "Mr. Williams, we'd like to talk to you about something important. Teknova needs a new CEO." Jalen smiled. He thought about his mother, who was probably back at home, cooking dinner in the same tiny apartment they'd lived in for years. That apartment wouldn't be needed for much longer. "I'll think about it," Jalen said with a grin. "But first, I need to deliver a pizza." The room burst into surprised laughter, but everyone there knew deep down they had just witnessed something unforgettable. The young man they had mocked had just turned the tables. He hadn't used hate to fight hate. He had used brilliance, courage, and patience. He waited for the right moment, and when it came, he changed everything. 6 months later, Jalen Carter walked through the halls of Tech again, but now he wasn't holding a pizza box. He wore a suit, carried a company badge, and was officially the youngest CEO in Teknova's history. At just 20 years old, Jalen now led over 200 employees and handled contracts worth billions. The same lobby, where he had once been humiliated, now displayed his photo on the executive wall. Just below it was the company's new slogan, one Jalen had personally written: "Excellence has no color, only results." How does it feel being Silicon Valley's youngest and most innovative CEO? A Forbes reporter asked him during a cover story interview. Jalen smiled and adjusted his tie. It still felt odd around his neck. He hadn't worn many until now. "Funny," he said. "Just 6 months ago, I was the black pizza delivery guy." Apparently, the title changes once you save a company from going bankrupt. And it was true. Under Jalen's leadership, Teknova had completely transformed. Not only had it recovered the $97 million, it had lost it tripled its market value. His algorithm was now being used by companies all over the world. His mother, Teresa, had retired comfortably, thanks to Jalen. The company had introduced a generous pension program for all its cleaning staff. At the awards ceremony, where Jalen received the Executive of the Year title, Teresa sat proudly in the front row. "I never doubted him," she whispered to her friends. "I always knew my boy would do something big. I just didn't know he'd fly so high that even I couldn't catch up." Meanwhile, Edward Vance had vanished from the tech world. After serving for months in federal prison for corporate crimes and racial discrimination, no tech company would touch him. His life crumbled. Former business partners ignored him. His golf club cancelled his membership. His wife divorced him and took half of what was left. He now lived alone in a small apartment in the suburbs, doing freelance consulting for small businesses that had never seen the viral videos of his downfall. His fall wasn't just dramatic, it was public. Videos of his arrest were still shared online, often with captions about karma and poetic justice. Dr. Malcolm Reyes, now Teknova's vice president, would often say during meetings, "I've never seen a turnaround like this." Jalen turned humiliation into purpose. and Vance turned privilege into prison. During a corporate event about diversity and inclusion, someone in the audience asked Janitor how he managed to forgive the people who had once tried to ruin him. Jalen chuckled softly. "Forgive?" He repeated. "No, I didn't forgive him. I just used the energy he gave me more wisely. Vance taught me something. Revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising so high that the people who hurt you become irrelevant." Even Brittany, the rude receptionist, who once laughed at him, had faced her own downfall. She was fired for poor behavior and now worked at a small accounting firm. Every time she saw Jalen on TV, a wave of regret hit her. She had underestimated him. She'd never forget that. The room where everything began, the conference room, where Jalen had been mocked and where Vance had exploded in anger, had been renovated. It was now the Jalen Carter Innovation Center, a space where employees from all backgrounds were encouraged to share ideas without fear or judgment. A golden plaque on the wall displayed the words Jalen had once said during his first speech as CEO: "Genius ignored today is the revolution of tomorrow." Despite his success, Jalen kept one habit. Every Friday night, he still delivered pizzas, not for money, but the homeless shelters across the city. "To remember where I came from," he explained, "and to show kids who look like me that it doesn't matter where you are today. It matters where you're going." Noah Delgado, the journalist who helped expose Vance, wrote a best-selling book about the case. The title, From Delivery Boy to CEO: How Truth Broke an Empire of Lies. 2 years later, Jalen received a formal invitation to speak at Stanford, the university he had once turned down to care for his mum. After his powerful speech, a student raised his hand and asked, "If you could go back and change anything, what would it be?" Jalen paused, looking out at a room full of hopeful faces. "I'd change one thing," he said, smiling. "I'd have delivered that pizza 5 minutes earlier just to see." Vance's shocked face a little longer when he realized he underestimated the wrong guy. The room burst into laughter and applause. Edward Vance tried to humiliate a young black man, but in doing so, he helped build the legend of Jalen Carter, because the truth is, the greatest revenge isn't getting even. It's becoming so successful, so powerful, and so respected that the people who once tried to tear you down are forced to live the rest of their lives asking themselves one painful question: how did I not see it coming? If this story of resilience and redemption inspired you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more true stories, where injustice became the spark for something extraordinary.